Hello, geekologists! This is Systematic Geekology. We are the priest of the geeks, and we have such a special episode for you tonight. One I have been itching to do, really ever since I think this movie was announced. I knew I had to be on this one. This is our full spoiler-heavy review of Superman 2025. Fair warning, if you have not seen it, please get to a theater and then come back because we're not doing a light, spoiler free. This is going to be, we're diving deep into the movie, talking about all of its plot points and themes. So be warned if you have not seen it yet. But yes, we are talking about James Gunn's Superman 2025. I am Kevin Schaefer. I am here with two of my geekologists, Will Rose and Christian Ashley. Guys, how are you tonight?
Oh, wow. I'm feeling kind. I'm feeling loving. I'm feeling merciful. So in other words, I'm feeling punk rock.
Punk rock.
I'm feeling very punk rock. And we can't be too long tonight because, guys, I have tickets. I have tickets to go see the mighty Crabjoys. So right after this, I'm going to go see that band. So, we can't be too long tonight.
Oh, tell me how they are. I'm really anxious to see them at some point.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yes, I am very excited for this episode. Before we get into the main topic, guys, what are you geeking out on? And if I can share mine real quick, it's not one I've watched recently, but I have to share this because our very own Will Rose, if you don't know, he stars in a movie that was created by many of our friends in the Comic-Con community. Okay, he does only have like about 3 seconds in it, but hey, it's pretty awesome. But I bring that up because the movie Repchild, which was created by a lot of our friends in the NC Comic-Con community, written and directed by our good friend Brockton McKinney, and Will Rose has a glorious cameo there at the beginning. It is now on DVD, and you can buy it both if you go to an Ultimate Comics location here in North Carolina. You can pick it up there, but you can also order it online from the Ultimate Comics website. So it is on my shelf now. I love it.
Yeah. I'm going to create my MBD page. And Brockton shared with me that my wife and I both gave a great stink eye to the person at the bar making vulgar comments. And that's why we got an extra 2 seconds in the movie, because our acting skills were just top notch, especially giving the stink eye to somebody being very, very vulgar. It's not a kid's movie, but it was very, very fun. And I hope they get it on a streaming service at some point in the near future.
Oh, it would be fantastic if I know they've been talking about it, but yes, I was there at premiere night, and then I showed it to some friends at Comic-Con like a week or two later, and if you like just bonkers B-movie horror galore comedy, it is the movie for you. So, Repchild, that is Reptchild. Again, go to the Ultimate Comics website. You can pick it up there. So that is what I wanted to plug tonight. But Christian, what about you?
Yeah, I forgot to mention a couple weeks ago, some idiot and I, he goes by Joshua, we went to the movies together. We saw 28 Days Later.
Dude, that was good. Yeah.
Okay. We walked out with two different opinions of the film. I think mine is a little more middling. I hope the next ones are better. I'm waiting to see what else they have to cook. I'm not big on when people are rewarded for making stupid decisions, but that's a separate conversation.
I'll just say, I would be happy to do a review with you at some point. I totally respect your opinions, but what I really liked, without spoiling too much, I'll just say is what they did with Ray Fiennes' character, and that was a nice surprise. I just thought it was going to go one way, and it didn't, and I thought it was really interesting. My good friend Kyle is plugging on the discussion here. He loved Repchild and got a DVD copy, So
Kyle, Kyle, I'll sign your DVD when we see each other.
Yes,
I'll definitely sign it for you. No, my geeking out on is this little book here that Kevin recommended to me, Superman: The Unauthorized Biography by Glenn Weldon. It is fantastic. I'm a couple chapters in, and just given the history and the breadth and depth of Superman through the ages from where it began in 1938 with Action Comics #1, and what was in that comic, and why Superman has endured so much. I'm deep diving in the history of Superman. I feel like I know that hero pretty well because I've been around comics a long time, but this book just gives great insight, and it's written very, very well. So highly recommend that if you want to go deeper into kind of the history and lore of Superman.
It's a beautiful book, and also Glenn Weldon is a longtime NPR writer, and he wrote the review of the new Superman movie for NPR, so I checked that one out as well. But yeah, he is has an encyclopedic knowledge of the character and also the extensive publishing history behind DC.
Nice.
So, excellent pick. Awesome. Well, if you are plugging in, joining us on YouTube right now, or you're listening to this later, please like, subscribe, share. We thoroughly appreciate your support. If you are on YouTube and any one of our videos gets 50 likes, we say it every time, but Will Rose, what are you gonna do right now? I know we change it regularly, but
I will put on I will wear underwear outside my pants and put a cape on and stand on the top of a building and pose.
who doesn't want to see that? Come on. I mean, that like, if you're a fan of the show or you're just tuning in now, I mean, I think that is a welcome. I hope you're not alarmed by that, but yeah, this is a running gag we've had for a while. So all you have to do is hit that like button. We really appreciate it. Support us on Patreon for just a few dollars a month. It really helps keep the lights on here. And yeah, we just really appreciate all your support on the show. Like and share with friends. We also have a free to join Discord channel where you can pitch ideas here. Kyle, thank you for the like. We appreciate it. Yeah. So thank you all for tuning in, and let's get into it. So again, this is a movie I know we've talked about extensively on the show in the build up to it. This is one I've been eagerly anticipating, not just since it was first announced, but really for decades. And this is like, I mean, we'll get into, there's my picture on opening night. This is actually a shirt I got recently at the Warner Brothers studio tour. I went back in 2022, and then my sister went this time when we were in California, and she got that shirt for me. But I love it. It's got the 90 years of DC at the top, and it's got comic covers from different eras. So Golden Age, Bronze, Silver, and Modern. So I wore that to opening night. But yes, this is one you've heard our thoughts leading up to it. So now we're finally going to get into, okay, well, we actually thought of the movie, do a deep dive, and I cannot wait. So before we get into our overall interactions, I do have a plot summary written up, and bear with me because there is a lot of plot to cover in this movie. So this is what I came up with. But in a world where metahumans have been on Earth for 3 centuries, Superman has been active for 3 years. After stopping the nation of Baravia from invading its neighbor Jaranpur, he is defeated in battle for the first time by the Hammer of Baravia, and he goes to the Fortress of Solitude at the beginning of the movie to heal. The glorious Crypto, which we'll talk about a lot, comes to his rescue, and between Crypto and his robot assistants, they help him heal and restore his power at the Fortress of Solitude. Meanwhile, Lex Luthor is orchestrating the Hammer attack and has dispatched the engineer, which we'll get into more later too, to locate the Fortress of Solitude. The Hammer of Baravia turns out to be Ultraman, who we later learn is a clone of Superman under Lex's control. Lex also has a pocket universe at his disposal, which is sort of this interdimensional gateway that he is using to construct a prison of his own design for all of his enemies. And following the incident in Baravia, Lex urges the United States government to punish Superman for intervening in an international conflict without any authority. Though there are representatives who see his point here, they're reluctant to make a beloved hero into the enemy. And it's during this time, too, Superman gets a front page story at the Daily Planet because he's been interviewing himself. But it's also during this time we learn that he and Lois have been dating for several months. She is very aware that he is Superman. And so it's during this time that Superman allows Lois to interview him about the Baravia incident. And this causes him to get a little defensive about his actions. He insists that while he did act without any kind of authority from anyone else, he was doing it to save lives and to prevent widespread invasion. So Lex then infiltrates the Fortress of Solitude to uncover an encrypted message from Superman's Kryptonian parents. By the way, Jor-El here is played by Bradley Cooper, which was a nice surprise. And while he does this, he unleashes a kaiju monster on Metropolis as a distraction with the assistance of the Justice Gang, which is comprised of Mr. Terrific, Hawkgirl, and Guy Gardner Green Lantern. Superman and the Justice Gang take down this monster. But soon after, Lex reveals in an interview on basically this version of Fox News that the message that he uncovered from Jor-El, it details footage that Superman never saw before of Jor-El telling him to actually rule over humanity. And this, causes the public to turn on Superman. It causes an identity crisis for Superman. And he returns to the Fortress of Solitude to find his robots in pieces and defeated, and then Crypto is gone. So he storms Lex's office, demanding him to tell what he did with the dog. Where's Crypto? And this incident is caught on camera, and it makes him even more controversial because here he is storming the office, breaking windows, and threatening Lex. And so before things escalate any further, Superman tells Lois that he loves her and goes to turn himself into the government. Lex has him thrown in his pocket universe prison and interrogated. And here he uses Metamorpho, who we meet, and using his powers to torture Superman by creating a version of Kryptonite with his powers. And in this scene, he also kills an innocent man with them. And he's also here in cahoots with the president of Bravia. And seeing the innocent man killed here is what breaks Metamorpho and causes him to align with Superman on the condition that Superman rescue his son. So back at the Daily Planet, Lois and Jimmy Olsen put together clues about Superman's whereabouts. Lois goes to the Justice Gang for their help, but only Mr. Terrific accompanies her to rescue Superman. They go and break him out of the pocket universe, along with Metamorpho's son, and Crypto. Superman and Lois go back to Smallville so Superman can heal and recuperate. And during this time, Jimmy gets information from Lex's girlfriend, Eve, because they're sort of in a flingy relationship. We'll get into this later, but Jimmy is quite the ladies' man in this universe. And she gives Jimmy information about Lex's plans to acquire territory in Jaranpur and become a dictator, and that he's orchestrated the invasion. So she goes with this information to the Daily Planet crew so they can break the story. Clark then gets a pep talk from Pa Kent about how, despite the message from Jor-El and what it implies, it's ultimately who he decides is to be is what matters. And this inspires him. And then as Bravia prepares to attack Jaranpur, and the people of Jaranpur cry out for Superman's help, before he can go save them, Mr. Terrific calls Superman to Metropolis to prevent a rift in the pocket universe from destroying the city. So he goes and battles both the Engineer and Ultraman, the latter of whom he learns is his clone under Lex's control. Ultraman takes the mask off and he sees that it's him. And that's how Lex was able to infiltrate the fortress earlier. So then he calls in the Justice Gang to save Jaranpur. And after eventually defeating the Engineer and sending Ultraman into the pocket universe, Superman goes with Mr. Terrific to stop Lex. The Daily Planet story goes viral and exposes Lex's corruption, while Superman gives an inspiring speech about how he is just as human as anyone else. Mr. Terrific then takes over the control system and stops the rift from occurring. Superman puts Lex behind bars, and then he and Lois have this nice romantic moment, and they tell each other they love each other. And at the very end, in addition to a cameo from Supergirl, we get this nice moment where Superman replaces his once comforting message from Jor-El and Lor-El, his birth parents, with images of the Kents as his true parents. And roll the credits. So a lot of plot there to unpack. I know. There's a reason I wanted to do a full plot summary, because I think we're going to get into, there's a lot to discuss here, obviously, but I also want to get into, there are people who love that this is a very lived-in universe, and also others who think that it is too overstuffed. And just reading that plot summary, it is a lot, but I think we're going to get into, does it work, does it not, So, guys, just thinking of overall impressions of this movie, what were your thoughts coming out of the theater? I guess, Christian, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I adore this movie. Everything that was building up to it, it's like, okay, Gunn starting his own DC movie universe. It's like, I trust Gunn. He's done a great job overall. Creature Commandos really got me hyped even more. And now we actually get to see the top dog, Superman, get a film worthy of him that has not happened for quite some time. And it delivered. Yeah, it's not a perfect film by any stretch of the imagination, but you know what? It's fun. It makes me care about everyone involved. It has good messages to give. The characters are in character. We get good guys who are good guys. We get bad guys who are bad guys. We got politics messed up in the middle of it that brings some ambiguity to it, where both sides are kind of right in certain ways. And it's just fun. And it's nice to watch a Superman that's actually a film that's actually fun.
Nice. I agree, Christian. I adore this film as well. I was really nervous going into it because we've all talked about, we saw the trailer. We were smitten by the trailer. I was crying during the trailer. I love the trailer. It was a perfect trailer. And I in James Gunn, I trust. I loved his all his movies with the MCU and the Suicide Squad, those kinds of things. So I'm like, I trust his storytelling, his beats, his soundtrack, the way he makes you care about characters, C-list characters. And so coming to this, it's like, I just hope they get Superman right. And boy, did they ever. They captured the true nature and character of Superman and comics. And when the movie is done right, it really kind of pushes you to ask the question, what does it mean to be human, and what does it mean to be humans together? And so that's what this movie did. Yep, it was jam-packed. I think a friend of mine, friend of the show, Ryan, said that one of his friends said the movie watches like a comic book reads. And I think that is just like nailed it. And it's a 6-issue graphic novel, full story arc that it would take 6 months for me to finish, collecting the comics and then have it in a graphic novel, and it's right there in the movie. So I loved it. We'll get more into like the details of things that we love, but yeah, and of course I was smitten by it. By Crypto and that dog. I love that dog so much. We could have had more Crypto. People are like, was he ever used? No, he wasn't used enough. Let's have more Crypto.
Oh, absolutely. I think Crypto and Mr. Terrific are the still like standouts of everyone wants more of both of them. We'll get into more of that too. But no, I echo everything you both said. I mean, I've talked about on the show many times before, in the build up to this movie, it just, I was so excited just from the trailers and from everything that James kind of teased that, like you both said, this was going to be very reverent of its source material. This was going to be the Superman that was unabashedly heroic and good, and being good because that's his nature and that's his character. And he's raised by 2 loving parents who instilled in him the values that he carries out as a superhero. And for years and years, the DC and Warner Brothers struggled so long to get Superman off the ground in a cinematic universe again. And I think a lot of that was just like this overt desperation and trying to make him, quote unquote, like more relevant and reimagine the character to make him cool and edgy and, in my view, cynical. And that's not the approach. And this movie gets the character back to its roots and is not afraid to be an unabashed comic book movie with not only all of Superman and his powers and his traits, but also, like I said, the Justice Gang and other metahumans, and this very lived-in universe where it's not meant to mirror our own world. There are aspects of our world that come into play, but this is the DC universe. This is Metropolis. This is not trying to be modern-day Earth. It's trying to be its own fictional universe that brings to life the pages of the comics, and I loved everything about that. So it's no secret that I love this movie. I've seen it twice already, and it's only been out since Thursday because I went on opening night, and then I went again today. And that's partly why my plot summary was so energetic, is because I'm just so fired up and ready to talk about how much I love this movie. But also, I don't want this entire episode to just be, oh, we love this movie. There's a lot to unpack here in terms of character beats, in terms of storylines, in terms of questions about its political themes and allegory. So there's a lot to get into here. I want to start by asking the question of, okay, like I meant, just from that plot summary, there's a lot going on in this movie, and it's only 2 hours and 9 minutes. Do you guys think objectively it succeeds in being, in combining a lot of storylines, having a lot of characters, and still having a cohesive narrative?
Mm. I'll just real quick. I'll share. I liked, as someone who has seen and read the origin of Superman over and over again. I loved it that we just had those opening statements that let you know where you are in the movie.
Amen.
And I don't need the origin story. I don't need a full 30 minutes to an hour leading up to him coming to Earth and him joining the planet or get to know Lois and Lex. Like we're in the movie, and already in the movie. he's already been dating Lois for 3 months. Lex already hates him. It starts with him being defeated. You start a Superman movie with him defeated, showing him vulnerable. Like, that is bold. And so they start with him with a loss and then build from there. So jumping right in, I love that. We jump right into the universe. And there's more to learn along the way, and they'll fill that out as the DCU grows and these TV shows and fill in that stuff. But to hop right in and just go rock and roll, let's do it. I really like that. Now, some of my family members who aren't as familiar with the DCU, they had to play a little bit of catch up with some of the characters and background. Is that in the comics? Who is that character? Am I supposed to know who this person is? I don't know who this person is. Is this a part of the Justice Gang or Justice League, or are they just made up for the movie? And I was able to after to say, yeah, here's some of their background, and you'll learn more about them later on. We're not quite to the Justice League yet, but to have the Hall of Justice and they're still working on that name. They're still working. It's a workshop. They're workshopping the name, and I love that. So, I know. I was ready for one of them to go like, aren't we just friends? And somebody goes, super friends. I was ready for that, but it didn't. That's where I written. But I liked that they jumped right into the movie and we just kept go from the get go. That's good. Christian, how about you, man?
Yeah, there's a lot in this film. Not all of it works well, but for the most part, I say it does. And I really appreciated the beginning where it's like, look, this is the DC universe, by the way. So these things, there was probably a Justice Society in the 1940s who fought against the Nazis and Imperial Japan. There have been aliens. People know that they exist. So like, they're not afraid that Superman's an alien. They're afraid about what's been revealed, and that's its own plot thread along the way. We can debate about that. But then we get into the conflict between Lex and Superman, and the words that are used there to be like, yeah, I know I'm lesser than you, and I hate that fact. And so I'm going to do everything in my power to be more powerful than you. Brain beats brawn, and it's just done extremely well. The villains he uses are fine. The Ultraman is way different than what an Ultraman would be. He's kind of more like more pretty Bizarro, who doesn't speak that much. And the engineer, I'm not big on the Authority, but apparently she's going to be in the Authority film, so maybe that'll change my mind about it. Because there was a really good run.
Real quick, I'm not familiar with the Authority. Is she a character in the Authority?
Yeah, she's from that. Yeah.
And apparently she's also a hero there. So I think this may be Gunn like going from villain to hero that wasn't done in the comics, maybe. But I'm not that familiar with them, so I can't speak too much there. But what they do with the Daily Planet staff, for the most part, pretty good. They give them an actual reason to be in the story. I mean, we don't get a lot of like Perry or as the chief, but we get plenty of Lois and Jimmy, and we get a little bit of the supporting cast there, and like giving a surprising like editorial that flashes all the information they find out about Lex Luthor and his plans that help defeat him in a way that he's defeated beyond being beaten by Superman in a fight and Crypto in a fight. So that's done extremely well. The bringing in the other heroes, I was a little hesitant about that, but they won me over. Mr. Terrific, I mean, that's my guy. Ever since I first saw him in Justice League Unlimited and like Batman was showing him respect, I'm like, oh, okay, well, clearly I must show him respect too. And he proves himself. He's Mr. Terrific. He says in a way I'm not going to say, over in podcast form, but he's Mr. Terrific. And I'm ready. Like, I want a solo film for him now. His actor, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Fantastic.
Gizaki. He was brilliant. Yeah.
Guy Gardner. If Guy Gardner could move from the comics into live action, Nathan Fillion did it. It's a complete and utter jerk who's also a hero. I love what they do with them. Hawkgirl was one I didn't do too much with, but I'm okay with that. I know other people have been like criticizing that, but it's fine. But yeah, Superman's relationship with Lois is great. Crypto works perfectly in this film in a way that normally, like, why would you ever do any of the goofier aspects of the comics? Or why don't you just embrace them and make them fun? And that's what Gunn does really well here. He embraces the goofy and stupid things and makes you believe in them.
100%. And Ida Gizaki, played Mr. Terrific. When I saw him in an interview on the DC podcast, he was just like the coolest guy in the room. And I'm just like, this is perfect casting right away. So even before the movie, I knew it was great casting. But I was surprised by how much he was in the movie, because when they said, that those heroes were going to be in it, I figured they were going to be, like maybe in a couple scenes or whatever, established that there are other superheroes in this universe. But I really love what they did with his character. And also, like, the friend I saw it with on Thursday night, one of his biggest tropes that he hates in superhero movies is when superheroes are unnecessarily fighting each other. And here they didn't do it. Like, they have, like, a little beef at the beginning about Superman is trying to save the kaiju monster and, like, have it, like, studied. And the rest of Justice Gang is like, come on, good dude, let's just kill it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other point is like, is the Justice Gang is funded by Max Lord?
By Maxwell Lord, yes.
Maxwell Lord. So
yes.
he's a shady character too. So that, like,
right.
I can understand, like, Superman wants to be independent. He's only 3 years into being Supes, and so this is kind of a young Justice. So what I liked about another part of this is Superman can't be everywhere at one time, and he has that kind of guilt, like, I should do more, I can do more, why can't I do more, what do I do? But he has this other team out there that, even that scene where him and Lois are having a conversation and the Justice Gang's fighting that, like, thing in the background is hilarious. But
by the way,
that was a great scene, because
and admitting like, they got it covered. I can take a breather. There's other metahumans out there. And so later on when he can't be at two places with the rift and the war going on, I was like, I forgot about Justice Gang. I was like, how is he going to do both at one time? And then he's like, I have friends. I have a free that got to handle it. And they were there. I was like, oh, that's right. And that's what I love about these movies and comics, is that we don't have to do it all by ourselves. Even Superman has friends and team, even though he's not officially on the team yet. He will be. That you can lean on others. You can lean on others who have gifts too. So, man, I love that aspect that reminded me, yep, Will, you don't have to do it all. There are friends out there who can create cool slides like Christian can, because I can't do it all here on YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when I think about this movie in terms of, like, objectively looking at it of, is it overstuffed? Is there too much going on, or does it work well? I thought about other comic book movies that have a lot going on and ones that do it well and ones that do it poorly. And I thought about two in particular. So I'm going to reference both Spider-Man movies here, but Spider-Man 3, which is a bad example of, something that is overstuffed and has so many storylines that don't work. Because you think about even the first few minutes of that movie, you have Harry's Green Goblin coming to attack Peter. Obviously that relationship is already established in the trilogy, but then you introduce two villain origins back to back that don't really connect in any way, because you have the Venom symbiote arriving on Earth, juxtaposed with Sandman's origin, and neither of them really coalesce. And again, there's a whole thing about that, about Sam Raimi never even wanted to include Venom. The studio forced him to. That aside, that's an example of bad writing where it is, like, too much. It's not, the problem is not that there are too many villains or too many characters in that movie. It's that they're not utilized well. On the flip side, let's look at Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which James Gunn has cited as his favorite comic book movie. And the influence of that, I think, shows here tremendously, because that is a movie that has a lot going on, a lot of characters. It has multiverse concepts. It has, all these different heroes and villains colliding, but it maintains a character focus and a cohesive narrative. And I think for the most part, this movie does that. It's not perfect by any means. Like, when I think about some other James Gunn's other movies, I still think The Suicide Squad is, like, pretty close to a perfect movie. But this one has its faults, but even with everything going on, I like that it establishes that it's in a lived-in universe. Yes, we don't need to see Superman's origin again. And the characters that show up, yes, not all of them are going to get a full fleshed-out storyline and background, but they can show up and be part of the story and, show up later and get expanded on more, and that's okay. Hawkgirl, for example, she's one of my favorite characters. Yes, she didn't have a ton to do here. I do like that actor a lot, Isabella Merced. But again, this is more, those characters are here in this universe, they're doing their own thing. They don't necessarily have to be the focus in this movie to exist here in the story. So I think overall it juggles a lot and it does really well. I was talking with Kyle earlier, who's typed in the YouTube chat earlier. What I said was, I was thinking about, like, when James Gunn was writing this movie, it's almost like he had a buffet of Superman media from different, so from the animated series, the Richard Donner movie, the comics, like all these things, All-Star Superman, and he kind of pulled all his favorite tidbits and kind of, meshed them together and cooked them into a perfect pie. And, it's not perfect by any means, but he maintains a focus here. And he has themes here that work really well. And I like that it is, you said, he doesn't have to be everywhere all at once. He can rely on the help of the Justice Gang. There are superheroes happening in this universe. Again, they say at the very beginning, many humans have been on Earth for 300 years. So I like that we don't have to deal with the whole ramifications of, how is humanity reacting to humans? They already know they exist. Like I said, we get to a central plot point here about a message about Superman's original purpose on Earth and how that affects humanity and his perception. So, overall, I think it really succeeds in all these areas. And while it's not, there are things I can nitpick at. And I will say, I wanted to see more of Perry White here. I love the Daily Planet scenes, and that actor was fantastic. There are things, with a lot of moving parts, it's hard to give enough screen time to everyone. But overall, everything really comes together, and it remains a clear focus of Superman's struggle with reconciling, what his original purpose from his Kryptonian parents was with who he actually is as a person, and how his upbringing ultimately forms him to who he is. And then, of course, Lex is the villain, and his reasons for hitting Superman. So I mean, when you boil it down, it's identity. Who am I, and who do people say that I am, and who am I going to listen to in the midst of those identity questions and identity crises and those kinds of things that people go through in life. And so I think this movie really set that up really well. All the while, him being the hero and showing why the hero is what makes a hero. So I think that's fantastic. The thing that you just kind of sparked to me, I have a question. Is there a Gunn cut? Are there things is there things on the cutting room floor where there's edits where he's going to put out a 3-hour movie where we did get new Perry White, where we get more Jimmy Olsen, where we get those things? So I'm curious if they'll be they'll probably steer away from tropes like the Snyder cut, just so they can, move their own way and not troll that whole side of fandom. But I think, I'm curious what, after seeing this movie, what did they cut out and didn't make the final cut there. But yeah, brilliant movie and really good stuff. I did see something as recently as a month or two ago. He cut about 20 minutes of footage after some initial screenings and got some feedback and stuff. And I thought it was impressive that this movie is 2 hours and 9 minutes, and as much plot as it has into it, it remains concise and it doesn't waste time. As much as I love sitting in the theater for 3 hours, I realize not everyone is up for that, and you can still, as a storyteller myself, it is hard to kill your darlings, and even a scene that you really like, if it's not permeated to the story, sometimes it has to be left out. But yes, I think it's very possible we could get a director's cut on a Blu-ray, or at the very least have deleted scenes on there, because I would love to see. I know, because they filmed the Daily Planet stuff for days, so I know there's more footage there. I'm sure there's more, probably Pa and Pa Kent. But I do appreciate that, they strive to make this really tight and work, and that's why I referenced Spider-Verse earlier, because that's a movie again that has a lot going on and it remains very tight and cohesive. And that's not easy to do. But yeah. So I know we talked a lot about our favorite parts and stuff too, but what are some of your let's do favorite scenes first. I know we've mentioned it a little, but Christian, do you want to start on that?
That's a good one. It's tough to narrow it down. There's some really great scenes here, and from our more human moments, I really appreciate Clark and Pa Kent talking to each other and letting him be his own man. And that's based off some things. I'm still kind of wrestling with what they decided to do with that, whether I like it or not. But that's for a separate conversation in a bit. As well, the beach scene with Mr. Terrific and Lois Lane, assaulting the Planet Watch or whatever it is group. It's Like, please give me more of that. It's like of characters being competent. That's a major reason why Mr. Terrific is one of my favorite DC characters. He's just a competent man, and not in like an overbearing way. You could easily do that with a character like him, who is smarter than most people, who is more arrogant than most people because he's kind of earned it. Well, that's why I like him, because he's earned it. Versus like, a character showing him say, "I'm me," and he hasn't done anything to establish that, or she hasn't done anything to establish that. He's established that. He's earned it. And I gotta say, I really appreciate it because I didn't expect this. I appreciate it a lot when all the Daily Planet staff were in his ship and doing their job. And like Lex had been beaten, but now he's even more beaten because you've got him losing physically. Now he's lost the public and the media who were singing his praises not 5 seconds ago. Like it's nice to see competent people get rewarded.
Nice.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I like everything Crypto's in, I was smitten, and I loved it. But I like there's subtle things. Like I loved the big fights. I love the teams working together. That when Soups goes like supernova and is like fighting all those people in armor, and like spins and shoots him off and shoots his. I was like, yeah, there he is. He's leveled up right there. But then there's like subtle moments where like, this is a PG-13 movie, so there's cussing going on. Like they're cussing all around, and then but you still go back to Superman or Clark, and he's saying like, "Dang it," and "What the heck," and "What the heck, dog," and it's like, and it's not cheesy, it's not corny. I mean, if it is, it's like that's what's enduring. That's him, and it captures that. I love that, and then I love that we have a Hulk puny god smashing Loki moment, except this time it's Crypto with Lex, that he's about to pontificate and give this speech just like Superman did, and then all of a sudden here comes Crypto to grab him and throw him around the room. I was cheering in my seat. I loved it so much. I love that scene.
I think for me, I mean, I definitely echo all that, but the one that really stands out, even though they gave quite a bit of it away in the trailer, I love that trailer, but maybe they gave a little too much. But the Superman and Lois interview, and the scene where Lois interviews Clark as Superman in their apartment. We've had some great Clark and Loises over the years in movies and TV. In TV in particular, Superman and Lois, Tyler Hoechlin and Elizabeth Tulloch are great in that series. Tom Welling and why am I drawing a blank on the? But in Smallville, I'll think of it in a sec. And then of course in the Donner film, Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder. But David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan rank high up on the list now. Their chemistry was. Thank you, Erica Durance. Yeah, so they were great. But yeah, Corenswet and Brosnahan with that scene, the chemistry was lightning. They were so together. And what I love about that scene is, like I said, Superman gets defensive in that because Lois is doing her job as the because at that point Superman has been quote unquote interviewing himself and writing all the stories as Clark. And so he lets Lois do her job and interview him this time, and be an objective reporter here and ask him about, hey, why did you intervene in this international conflict without any authority, without consulting the president? And he immediately gets defensive and says, people were going to die. I wasn't representing anyone. I was just doing good. And, and it is like something that Superman would do. And also, I think particularly this is a year 3 Superman. He's not fully healthy. He's not fully wise. He's still making mistakes. He's still, and that is something a more younger, a little more reckless Superman would do, is go and intervene in an international conflict, despite the ramifications of it, whether that's good or not. And we'll get into more of those political themes, but that's just something that he would do at this point, in his life and career. And I just really liked how they played off on that. So yeah, that was fantastic. And yeah, I just love both of their performances. And then beyond that, yeah, of course, the Pa Kent scene was great. Anything with Lex Luthor, Nicholas Hoult killed it. I mean, not that was surprising, but still, it just, you could not have been. And now, fun fact is, back when this movie was announced, before I knew who David Corenswet was, my fan casting was actually Nicholas Hoult as Superman and Anthony Kerrigan as Lex. So I do find it ironic that they both got roles in this, and I think we're better than that. I mean, I think they still could have done good in those roles, but David Cornsett was just perfect as Superman. Holt was perfect as Lex, and then I love that Metamorpho is in this as well. So all of that. I'm trying to think what else. Like as far as like standout action scenes. I did really like the kaiju one just because that's when you introduce the Justice Gang. But I think the best, probably the best action scene, does not involve Superman. It's actually the Mr. Terrific as well. That was, I mean, it was kind of a classic Gunn move in terms because it very much mirrored the Yondu stuff in Guardians of the Galaxy. That scene in Guardians 2, and I was all that. I did not mind at all. And it was kind of taking the same tactics there because that scene was amazing. But yeah, so those were some of my favorites.
Oh wait, and Superman saved a squirrel, guys. He saved a squirrel
because he comes out all like.
Yeah. And agree with Kyle. Mr. Terrific pissing off Guy Gardner. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. I love the scene with him and Lois, or the interview, because it is so very difficult to write conflict where both people are right.
Right.
And they're both right for different reasons. Like, look, modern comic writers like to take away truth, justice, and the American way because of certain things that have happened. But that's what Superman is. He is truth, justice, and the American way. He represents America because he is an American. He's primarily lived here. He primarily works here. So him acting internationally in that way makes America look a certain way. So he's doing that whether he recognizes it or not. At that same time, he's it precisely right. People are going to be murdered for no good reason. And just because that country is an American ally does not mean that we just sweep it under the rug and say, oh, nothing we can do. It's like he had to intervene. And him convincing, Guy and the Justice Gang, these guys are like, oh, I don't get into politics. It's like, well, no, sometimes you need to get involved in various ways to help protect people. And yeah, you're making a political statement by doing so, and there are repercussions for that act. But he still did the right thing, and Lois is doing the right thing too, and calling him out for what he did. That's an extremely well done scene.
Tough questions help you focus on why you do what you do. So even within the church, when people ask me like, why are we doing this? When this, I was like, just let me do things that I feel called to do. It's like, no, they're good questions is what helps me hone in and helps me go inward and think about, why am I doing this? What am I called to do? How do I use my gifts? All those things, tough questions bring out hopefully sharp answers to why you do what you do or who you are and what you represent in the world. So yeah, that was very, very good. And the tension was good. I wasn't cheesy. I was sitting on the edge of my seat. What's going to happen here? Are they going to break up? Does she, that little comment of this is never going to work. It's like, yeah, on paper, it's not. Like, you're a human. He's Kryptonian. No, it's not going to work. And yet their chemistry there at the end, and I got a tear the final scene where they embraced and flew in the air. Like I was wailing up. I was feeling all the romantic feels, and I was like, this is so good. So I felt all that. And that's what you do in the movie. It not only do I want to see the comics that I love come to life and see them represented in a way, but yet I want to feel what the movie's trying to make me feel in terms of hope, tension, fear. The stakes are high, but then at the end, like, in the end, the guy gets the girl gets the guy. They're partners. I love it.
They're just made for each other. And I like that they didn't, try to subvert that or anything. It's just, this is Clark and Lois and brought to life, and they were just so made for each other, and they build off each other's strengths and have that, clear love for each other no matter what.
Nice.
But yeah. Will, do you want to ask him, speaking of like the themes and all of this, do you want to ask your question that you talked about before we started recording?
Yeah, I'll bring that. But first, were there any misses? Were there things in here that you guys think, like, for me, I'll just start like I get a little uncomfortable, annoyed when they make Jor-El like a villain, because I'm like, or a question like his character is like, dude, he's the one who is trying to save Krypton. Nobody was listening to him. He was like, scientists, listen to me. I'm trying to save my kid. I'm trying to save this planet, but he was unsuccessful. That's why he sent his son to Earth so that he can be a hope for Earth and be an example of that. So when they make him a villain or a colonizer or like a master race, I know they play around that in the comics. Some Kryptonians seeing their hubris, but Jor-El, even even being tempted about that. There's maybe a John Byrne run, Mark Waid, other runs that kind of tease a little bit. Maybe Jor-El was sending him so that he could be a god among, the young, haven't quite advanced yet Earthlings, but that gets me a little. But in this particular movie, that being used as a tool to help him sort out his identity of what. Am I human? Am I an alien? Who am I? And why do I matter? Or how do I use my power and privilege in this particular thing? I thought was used well. So that was my only thing that I was like, oh, I hate it when they make Jor-El. And they made it a point. It was like, oh, Lex just fabricated it because he has all the AI, monkey trolls on the internet. But But Mr. Terrific made it a point to say a few times, like, no, this is authentic. I checked it out. So I don't think, maybe there could be a fabrication, reveal at some point, but Mr. Terrific was like, nah, that's real. So anyway, you guys go for it.
I would say for me, the only I guess I did want a little more Perry White. I love that actor, and I thought it was great, but I know there's a lot going on here. I guess the only thing, I didn't hate it or anything like that, but it was just the only thing I was like, okay, this just doesn't feel that high stakes because I know it's going to be resolved, is the whole riff with the Pocket universe at the very end, when there's already a lot going on with the the Justice Gang stopping Bravia. Superman's just battled Engineer and Ultraman, and then he's still going to stop Lex and all that. It just felt like one more kind of third act kind of comic book movie kind of thing. Again, I didn't hate it, but it just that was kind of one thing I could have done without, and it still would have worked fine. But those are really the only, because I was trying to the first time I watched it, it was so much going on, so much thick in. Watching it today, I was able to be more objective and look at it, and I thought that most stuff really did work. So that I'd say just little quips like that.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off of Will. When Telltale did their Batman games, one of the things that they changed was making the Waynes criminals alongside the Maronis and Salvatores and so on and so forth, and Bruce having to be affected by that. And it was interesting done there, but that's not the main continuity. And this is supposed to be the main continuity, as it were. And if this were a spin-off series, sure, we could explore that idea. And I'm not big on it, especially since one of the things they are pushing a lot, as they have in recent, on both sides, is the idea of Superman as immigrant. And I think that really undermines what they're attempting to do, because you have the more radical people who want no immigration at all, get rid of all of them, legal and illegal. Because now you've made this person who is the best of the best, he is coming from people who had ulterior motives. That's what the conspiracy theories are. They're here to replace jobs. They're here to replace us. And that's literally what happens in this film. Yeah. And that undermines the point you're trying to make of Superman. And I still take a different stance, and I'm sure you two will, in that there's a difference between there is no other way possible for us to do anything, so we're going to send him somewhere illegally, versus someone choosing to break the law and crossing a border. There's a difference in that. But I don't get why that decision was made if you really want to hammer in the fact that, yes, Superman is an immigrant. He is illegal in many respects. And despite all that, he's turned out to be this way because of being raised by pure, good old-fashioned morals and American values, and in certain continuities, actually Christian morals. And now that's taken away to an extent by what his parents intended. And I'm not big on that, because I'm grateful for the scenes we get in the film as a result of it, because it makes Clark question himself. It leads to that great scene with him talking to Pa Kent, who has always been there supportive in his life, and has now giving him the wisdom that I would expect him to give. That's a great scene, but it's based off of stuff I'm not that big on.
And the movie does at the end come full circle with these words from his parents from Krypton soothes him, but then he replaces it with my true family that raised me. That's what soothes him. So that Cindy reminded me, she was like, yeah, you had you have to think about colonization and what that means to colonizer. But then you also, at the end, you wouldn't have that beautiful scene at the end where he leans into like Pa and Ma and his childhood. Well, really what makes him human is the not just nature, but the nurture that he got and the call to like taking care of one another. That's what it meant to be human. And so yeah, I get it. It's a small nitpick, just Jor-El when he's seen as a jerk. I'm like, no, I want to like that guy because he tried to save his planet from. Like,
especially because like Bradley Cooper's playing, it's like, oh, you want him to be the
and maybe it's still fabrication. Maybe they're like coming out like, yeah, that too. Alexis Smart, and he even fooled Mr. Tripmick. I don't know, but we'll see. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
I don't think that's what the film is saying. That's what I really hope it's actually being done, is that this is a fabrication, and like even like one of the world's smartest men is fooled by it. And I think that's something to say about all of us, is any of us could be fooled by deep fakes, by AI in that way, which, I mean, consider your source number one. Who stands the most to gain from this if it is altered in any way, shape, or form? Well, of course, Lex Luthor is the one who gains the most. So I in my heart of hearts, I hope it is actually doctored, but given what the film presents, I guess the answer is no.
Yeah.
That is a really good point about the, because I think it works well in the context of the movie, but when you think about that in the larger context, it's like you want, and it'd be one thing if like maybe some Kryptonians wanted that, but you want kind of like Jor-El especially to be, wanting him to be a symbol of hope for humanity, not its colonizer or destroyer.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and that leads us to kind of like, the critics or things out there. And whenever you have any kind of superhero movie, you're going to have, in our polarized world, people, some people are going to love it because it confirms their confirmation bias of the way they think the world operates and what makes a hero and what doesn't. And then there's some who are like, no, wait a minute. And there've been some who say this film's too woke because they use the word immigrant or refugee. You have Superman battling a billionaire who's jealous of attention and fear of the other, and has a pocket universe where he's putting people in cages. So there are those things that are happening. And so, yeah, is it too woke, or is it just, has Superman always been this way in the comics since Action Comics #1, when he's stopped capital punishment and domestic violence and corrupt lobbyists right there in Action #1? Yeah, I think so. So anyway, what do you guys think? Where do you see? I went in expecting to, I guess I saw a few headlines like, okay, we'll go in and see. And I came out going, nope, that was Superman. That was Superman as he's been in the comics, portrayed the way he's portrayed. And if you feel like this is like really hitting home your political leanings or making you feel uncomfortable, then I think you gotta do some soul searching, in my humble opinion, and that. So you guys go for it.
Yeah. For me, the term woke, unfortunately, has been used and abused in a way that it doesn't make sense anymore. How I define the word woke is the idea of having characters who are changed in ways or are introduced in ways that are antithetical to their actual background, appearance, whatsoever, for the sake of diversity rather than it serving a role in the plot. Like, for instance, I would say, in a very minor nitpick, Perry White not being white is an example of being woke for the sake of having a racial lift and having diversity among the cast, because nowhere in the film is that ever relevant that he is African American. But for the most part, no, I don't get it. Accusations. It's the word woke that has become the media word woke, and that is anything that changes anything and makes me feel bad is woke. That's not how I would define the word. So it's done for clicks. It's done to get people upset and angry and rallying against things that they don't like, and that's
clickbait, triggering, and the word in itself is been appropriated by identity politics and people who want to capitalize on polarization and fear. But when at the beginning of it is like used in civil rights movement by Black people who are saying, wake up to the reality around you of what's really happening. You need to wake up. There's an Advent theme of in our liturgical calendar of the prophet saying, wake up to the reality around you so that you can pay attention to what's really happening. And so that's kind of the baseline up. And so, if this movie helps people, shake them out of complacency or think deeper or to wake up a little bit of things around us, then man, it's that's just bonus for me. Yes, a fun comic book movie, but if it's helping people go deeper into thinking about realities of what's around them and waking up a little bit, let's make it. Let's be woke. Yeah. Sorry, go for it, Kevin. I was fired up this past week. I just want to let you know, I got a little bit more political on social media this week. I got fired up by Superman stuff.
Oh, I'm with you. I mean, I would say to anyone who says like, "Oh, keep politics out of comics and comic movies," my what I would say to that is Superman was created in the 1930s by two Jewish guys who, like you said, in the first issue, tackled domestic abuse and was very much a proponent of social justice at the time, and he is from another world, and he stands up against oppression and he fights a billionaire. And in this movie, like the conflict with Moravia and Jaranpur, there are definite parallels between that and Israel and Gaza. There's also, I don't think it's subtle that the minister of or the president of Moravia, one point you see in his office him on a horse there. I don't think at all that's I think that's very much a non-subtle a poke at Putin there. So there's definitely parallels here, but I think Superman has always had ideals that represent political themes and allegories that you can it doesn't mean it's hammering it down your throat. It just means that this is a character who clearly stands for something, and is the voice of the oppressed, and is the voice of people and freedom and liberty. And that's always been a tenet of the character, and this movie recognizes that.
And the source material, always with the decades and the challenges of war and racism and the politics of the day, what people are wrestling with in society, Superman's addressed those things, whether it's 9/11 or whether it's civil rights or whether it's kids in the classroom dealing with bullies. Like all those things have been a part of comics to identify and to help and lift up and show a different kind of way. And what I kind of think about this movie going deeper is like, in terms of what do you do with power and privilege? Well, you have on one side Lex, who is Lex Luthor, what is he doing with his power and privilege, and what was and then Clark and Superman, what is he doing with his power and privilege? What makes a hero and what makes a villain? That is clearly, you can kind of see what's unfolding on the screen. Two different kind of ideologies, but also philosophies, but also worldviews, and how you see the other. And how do you see your family and your friends? What are you scared of? What do you do with your power and privilege, whether it's big or little, whether you're Superman? What makes Superman super is not his superpowers, is him identifying from the bottom up and those who are on the ground level, and the human and the oppressed, and those who are scared or in the midst of war. So that's what makes him super, not necessarily he can shoot laser out of his eyes or can call his super dog from miles away. And I think that is why Superman endures, and that's why these movies are still being made, and that's why these comic books are still being made for kids and adults, because those questions are lifelong human condition questions that we all face as humans in this world. Sorry to get a little preachy there,
but if anyone's saying why would this is work for Superman to interfere in the affairs of a foreign country, Superman 2, issue number 2. In 1939, has him invading Moravia, interfering in a war. From the very beginning, he has done this. It's not very subtle. That politics and comics have always been intertwined. Just because it offends you, some of those things, and some of these things do offend me, not in this movie, but sometimes in comics, I get offended by things that are done in the poor way or representing something very poorly. Yeah, sure. That's a discussion for another time, but you can't argue that comics have never been political. Captain America #1 has him punching Hitler in the face before we are in the war with Nazi Germany. That's a political statement being made. It just irks me. It's people repeating things because they've never actually delved into, or if they have read these things, they don't get it because they've never actually sat with the material.
Right. There's a lot more going on than just punching and superheroes flying. There's a lot of themes that have always been embedded in the pages of DC and Marvel. But yeah. Absolutely. And so, well, on that note, like thinking about why Superman endures and what makes a hero, what are some of your takeaways, like, from his portrayal in this movie? And, and thinking about that arc, too, of him coming into his identity and wrestling with his heritage, but also, what he stands for, what he represents.
And the fight scenes we're talking about in these films, it's very noticeable compared to another film where this Superman takes the time to make sure other people are okay. And if they can't do anything to help themselves, he helps them get out of the way. I mean, sure,
even squirrels.
And because Superman does respect and love all life. And that's a huge part of his shtick. As someone who grew up on a farm, he understood the value of life, of what these animals have. And as well, of course, he knows the value of human life because of how he was raised by Ma and Pa Kent. So that's him. And then inspiring him, the Justice Gang to be more heroic. They're already heroes. But him inspiring them to be even more heroic, stepping out beyond their comfort zone to go and protect people a world away. That's what a hero does. And that's why I love this Superman.
Absolutely.
What do you guys think of the different kind of S on his chest? Is it growing on you? I mean, it's not classic, but
I like it. I mean, it's one of those things of like, it's one of those things like that you have to, with as many Batman and Superman movies as there are, they have to add their own touch to the logo there. And I think this one works really well. I love the suit here.
All right, Joshua, you hear that? Our SG logo with Superman. We need a different, new, hipper 2025 version of that. So I want to see that on some merch soon. That's what I'm going to say. But I will say, I was out at a restaurant last night and I had my SG Superman logo on my shirt. And someone asked me what that was. And I said, hey, it's a podcast called System of Geekology. He was like, yeah, I don't really geek out on stuff. I was like, no, everybody geeks out on something. Tell me what you geek out on. And he was like like biology. I was like, dude, of course. All right. Yeah, of course. So anyway, like I was a little systematic ecologist evangelist yesterday, sharing about systematic ecology. And you can too.
If he's a scientist, then Andy Walsh right here.
Come on, dude. You don't geek out on stuff. Yeah, come on. Yes, you do. Stop it. Everybody geeks out on something.
I love it. Well, yeah, I think it's clear. We really love this movie. We'll definitely be seeing it again and probably talking about it for a long time. And very excited for the DC universe going forward. Before we rate and review, my question is if there's one, obviously James Gunn has announced a good number of projects here. Probably not all will probably come to fruition. I know that's his overall plan, but we'll see kind of what happens. Supergirl is definitely happening. That is an adaptation of the Woman of Tomorrow comic. So that is already in post-production. I cannot wait for that. But if there was one project now after seeing this movie that you really want going forward, I'll say mine. But whether it could be characters from this movie or something else in DC, what's your kind of dream one? Mine, I mean, I saw something that he's already toying with it, but give me a Mr. Terrific TV show here because that is the perfect one to expand on the character, show us who really Michael Holt is, and I just want to see more Idigadagi. So I think you could do so much there with like sci-fi, with thriller. There's so much potential there. So that will be mine. But Will, do you have like a dream DC project? It doesn't have to whether James Gunn directs it or not. Just in this universe.
Well, I'm curious, like Ultraman being pushed into the black hole pocket universe, if he's going to discover Darkseid or other heroes out there in an alternate timeline that come back in kind of a darker universe that they have to battle. Because that's the original Ultraman, right? Like a different timeline where the Justice League
Crime
are
Society,
villains.
Earth
yeah,
3,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, Earth 3 is like the Justice League are villains, and so Lex Luthor's the good guy, and that, which is kind of a cool kind of twist on things. But I will say, like, I don't know why, like when he said, "Oh, it's a foster situation with Crypto," and I know there's going to be Supergirl coming, and I know that graphic novel is one of my favorite ones, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, where she goes to a red planet so she can get drunk for her 21st birthday, and she has her dog with her. It is a whole premise of that graphic novel that why I didn't see that coming at the end. I was like, that's the cameo I wanted, I needed. Kid. Oh yes, I can't wait for that movie. So yeah, that's the one. Highly recommend. Read Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow in preparation for that movie. And if it's in post-production, man, I cannot wait. I love her as an actor. I love that dog. I'm gonna get more Crickbo. Are you kidding me? I am. Yes, let's do it.
And also, the director is the guy who did the Cruella de Vil movie, which I think is one of the best like Disney live action movie. No one asked for, but it was fantastic. Like, I mean, I thought that movie was great. Emma Stone, and Emma Thompson. But yeah, Christian, what about you? What's kind of you have like a dream DC project now? If you could pick.
Yeah, if we're not going to get at least Mr. Terrific spinoff, maybe a Justice Gang one would be fun.
Yeah.
Have all that. I know they're doing a Lanterns, which I think it's Hal Jordan and John Stewart. I'd have to look it up again.
It's Hal and John is the focus, but they said Guy is going to show up in it. So, but yeah.
But dark horse pick, I'm going to pick the Rogues, Flash's Rogues, and if he can do what he does for Suicide Squad with them, that'd be perfect. Like have them do a heist. It could be for Flash, could be for another hero they're trying to do. Like I'd love to see what he could do with them. I've
got my Flash shirt on, and I 100% endorse that. And I also, just based on the Swamp Thing. So Leah's commented like that was one they did. Like, again, I think when James Gunn made that, phase 1 of Gods and Monsters video announcement a couple years ago, for like a 10-year plan. That was one of the projects he announced that he had James Mangold attached to it. Now, granted, some of these like we don't know if and when they'll happen, but I would love for that. That would be amazing. I also, based on the whole metahumans have been on Earth for 300 years. I would love to see an origin kind of like that. Whether that involves the new gods, whether that involves the Mascara, who knows?
Savage.
But yes, exactly. I mean, Vandal Savage would be. Ooh, that would be so cool. Yeah. There's so many. I mean, I'm just so excited. I know there's a lot of comic book movies now, but I think this is a great start to this universe. And if they do it right and just focus on good stories here, there's a lot of potential going forward. So, yeah. Well, guys, wrapping up here, if you had to give a rating, I know it's really hard giving like a number here, but if you had to pick like on a scale from 1 to 10, what would you give this movie? I think for me, I would give it a solid 9. I mean, I think in terms of enjoyment level, it's off the charts. Yes, I do have nitpicks and stuff, but like, it's just, this is the Superman I've wanted to see on screen for the longest time. This is the DC universe I wanted to see. But not just that, I just think it's a good movie. And I will be seeing it with people later in the week who are not nearly as versed in this stuff as I am. And I'm really curious to get their perspectives on it too, because I want to know from just a average moviegoer, what is your thoughts on this movie as a whole? I'll be really curious to get their perspective.
Yeah, I think I'm at an 8.5, maybe a 9, depending on how I feel. I think it depends on the whole reveal of his parents, whether that is actually true or not. If it's actually true, I 8.5. If it's manufactured, a 9, because I think that does kind of taint the legacy a little bit of the Kryptonian side of things, making them more like Saiyans and Viltrumites versus his actual parents who loved him and wanted the best for their world, but they couldn't get what they did, so they had to send him somewhere else.
Yep. I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, we're doing a little Invincible kind of thing. I'm gonna go solid 9, and then because of Crypto, I'm going to 9.4. He bumps it.
Crypto.
He bumps it.
Yeah,
he bumps it.
Well, did you know too that James Gunn's own dog influenced him a lot during the writing? Yeah.
I did, and I saw that clip of like his dog and him slamming him. His dog is like being really like out of control and destroyed everything. They just patterned everything after him, and it makes me very happy. I do have some YouTube videos out there of Will and Woody in the wild, me and my dog. So if you want to know what my dog looks like and some of the things, just look on YouTube. I think Woody and Will breakdancing together is where I peaked and stopped. So you can find that somewhere. If you want to DM me, I'll shoot you that video.
I love it. And again, hit that like button. Well, maybe you could have your dog in the video of you like in Superman underwear and doing all kinds
Yeah.
of things. Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, James.
that'd be great.
James says Squirrels used to tease my job. I hate Squirrels. Well, so does Crypto, because that was what was being used in the movie when Lex was trying to get him. He was chasing squirrels. Superman saves squirrels. Crypto wants to eat them. So there you go. James is on
I
Crypto
love it.
side.
Yes. Crypto is. Oh, I think that it'll be. People will be singing his praises for a long time. So,
Yeah.
awesome.
Fun.
Well, guys, this was a blast. I could not think of a better way to spend a Saturday night. You guys geeking out about Superman. This was awesome. And for our listeners and viewers out there, thank you so much for joining. This is a great time. Please like, share, subscribe, and support us on Patreon. You can get extra perks that way, and you support the show. So tell your friends about the show. Just come geek out with us. And remember, we are all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests.